I'll do the intro.
All right. We're live.
We're live. Coming to you right now. Olivia Wilde spitting incident?
Potentially.
Question mark?
We think it's true.
And then Lord of the Rings of Power versus House of the Dragon. And some other news coming up to you shortly.
Stay tuned. All right. We are back.
We're back
Hello,
after
everybody.
another brief hiatus. This is episode 20 of the Entertainment Business Review. We are the two smartest dumbasses talking about the entertainment business.
That's right. My name's Jordan.
I am Brian. And before we get started, just a disclaimer, these are the opinions of Jordan and Brian exclusively, and not of our companies or any of our peers or anything, really. This is just things coming out of our brain holes.
Purely for fun, not representative of any entity that we represent outside of this podcast.
Nice. What a great disclaimer.
I know.
All right, so we were just chatting about this before going live.
All right, I hate to get, we wanted, we're obviously, all about the entertainment business, but something has popped up in the business that has been more gossip probably and like drama than actual business. However, it's very entertaining, and we can talk about like the implications of it actually on a business level too.
Sure. So what is the drama? So Olivia Wilde started shit.
So Olivia Wilde did an interview. I forget what magazine she did it on, and it was very much the classic what no woman director seemingly can do an interview without talking about how she broke the barrier and she's a goddess for just being a woman director in the first place, despite the fact the movie hasn't come out yet. We don't even know if it's good. But she did this whole interview about how awesome she is, pretty much. And then she made mention that Shia LaBeouf was on the movie at first and then he quit. And her excuse was like he didn't really fit with my style of directing, so we amicably left. And
Shia LaBeouf is notoriously known to be tough.
Yeah, and so she made it seem like she was like, this is not working for us. Like you need to go.
That's fair. Yeah.
And then Shia LaBeouf actually came back 2 days later and was like. I was basically like, a bitch, that's a fucking lie. And he sent her an email, and I think to other publications too, with his correspondence, because he wanted everybody to know. With the text exchange, he has a voicemail from her, basically being like, I want this to work out, please don't leave the movie. And he's like, I left because, and I forget exactly how he described it, but he was basically like, you were not providing me with a good setting for me to act, so I quit. So he's like, stop going out there and being like, I'm doing bad stuff on set and you fired me when you were literally begging me to stay on the movie. And so she was clearly lying about that. So that drama kind of passed. And what happened, obviously, is Harry Styles was ultimately replaced in that role, who was, I think they were dating at the time. I don't know.
Harry Styles and who?
And Olivia Wilde. Yeah, so I think they were dating at the time. I can confirm that, but I think they were dating at the time. So anyway, and he had only acted in Dunkirk, which he wasn't bad in. He didn't have that many lines, but he wasn't terrible.
Better than expected.
So he's not a terrible actor as far as I'm aware. Then a clip a clip came out of him acting in it, and he does the worst accent I've ever heard in my life of something. We don't really know. He does
an
4
American accent.
Yeah, it was bad. It was an American accent that went Irish in one area, went Boston in one sentence. It was bad. And everyone's like, okay, maybe he's not that dope of an actor. But anyway, then the Venice Film Festival was coming up, and Florence Pugh was like, nah, I'm not doing it. So then everyone's like, the star of the movie is not going to the premiere in Venice.
Yeah.
And so then there was obviously speculation of well, Olivia Wilde seems to be a psychopath with Shia LaBeouf. Is she also is there something going on between the two of them? Why would she? And then a lot of...
Holy crap. So there's a clusterfuck of drama here.
Dude, there's so much. And then, so what ends up happening was Olivia Wilde goes up and somebody asks her, why isn't Florence Pugh coming? Yeah. And she's like, there were just scheduling conflicts. Florence Pugh was amazing. She's the greatest actress ever. She really gave it her all. And, but she's working on another film. She just didn't have time to make it. And then the day of the premiere, she's there. and she's there. She posts something on like TikTok. Her publicist like posts something on like TikTok or something of her like walking around with like a drink, just like being like fuck it. So she clearly didn't have scheduling conflicts.
Oh, what
So
the
then,
fuck?
so she ends up. So she skipped the press tour, but she made it for the premiere of the movie, and so you can see in the press tour Harry Styles and Chris Pine doing like all these things, and Chris Pine looks like he wants to kill himself the entire time. There's one great clip that's been going around online where Harry Styles is like, "I just love this movie because it just feels like a movie, you know, like it's just a movie that we're in." And Chris Pine's just sitting there like, are you seriously? Did you just say this movie is a movie in an interview? Like, it's so bad. And what he's trying to say, obviously, is like, it feels like a movie you need to go out to the theaters. But he said it in such a dumbass way. And Chris Pine's just sitting there like, oh my God, I want to die.
No, he's like, this guy's clearly an amateur.
Yeah. There's another time Harry Styles says, well, I'm not really an actor. I'm pretty an amateur. But I am an actor. Some of the lines he was saying was just downright stupid. Like, it was just bad. So they finally get to the movie premiere. The spit wasn't even talked about. I think everybody missed it because it came out later. But you noticed what ended up happening was the cast and the actors and Olivia Wilde came, like, they all sat next to each other. But the order was that Olivia Wilde was all the way on one side and Florence Pugh was all the way on the other side. So and they weren't looking at each other. They wouldn't acknowledge each other. So of course that just fueled more speculation of like they fucking hate each other clearly.
Yeah.
And then, so in Venice, and this is one of the dumbest things Hollywood does, just them all sucking each other's balls, is when a movie ends in all these film festivals, it's like a clapping feast, and you're literally judged based on how long people clap
the ovation
for,
is, yep.
which is the dumbest way to assess the quality of a movie.
Yeah.
Although the best thing that came out of it was there's a 6-minute video of everybody clapping for Brendan Fraser, and he's like crying, and it's like the best.
Yeah,
he's just the man.
I saw a post about that.
But yeah, he's just the greatest.
Wait, so why is Chris Pine and Harry Styles beefing?
I don't know. That's the thing. The assumption, I think the speculation is that basically
everybody hates each other.
Yeah, like the whole process of making this movie was an absolute shit show, and like all the actors hate each other.
They're just doing their jobs.
Olivia
basically.
Wilde. Yeah, they're just like, I have to be here to promote the movie.
Yeah.
But this movie, like, I hate this. I hate what happened during in the process of making this movie. Like, production was ass.
This feels like just a drama queen central type situation.
Yeah, dude, it's so bad. And one last thing, they do the clapping. They do the clapping thing. Florence Pugh gets up and everybody claps for her within like the first like minute or something. Like she yells, and then she fucking leaves. She just goes.
She just goes, leaves the place.
So she leaves. So then all of the cast is like, and so they walk out, and so the clapping lasts like 3 minutes because everybody left.
Wow.
Because Florence Pugh was like, I don't want to stay here for this stupid clapping, and dipped within like 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's pretty clear.
It's pretty clear that Florence Pugh probably hates Olivia Wilde.
Yeah.
For reasons who knows. Also, Olivia Wilde said that the Jason. Did you hear that Jason Sudeikis, like they were married, they have kids, and they were going through a divorce, and at like Comic-Con or something, I forget what it was, she was given papers like on stage.
Oh yeah.
For their kids. She's going on record saying like, you know, he did that maliciously. He was trying to mess with me. Like, he was just being an ass. But now all this is coming out, and you're like, I think Olivia Wilde's just crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what. And Jason Sudeikis seems like a pretty normal dude. So it's like, you see the two of them, and you're like, yeah, that looked like a dick move, but like, maybe he had to do it for some reason.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, Olivia Wilde seems nuts. And clearly, like, everybody in the cast of her own movie hates her, with the exception of maybe Harry Styles.
Yeah, I think it's also telling because, like, Florence Pugh is probably the best actor.
She's
out of that group,
amazing,
right? And then second is probably like Chris Pine.
Yeah, he's definitely this.
So it's indicative of like something that's going on behind the scenes.
Also, Shia LaBeouf is an incredible actor,
right? So
that was definitely an absolute downgrade, which is also funny because she said Harry was her first choice, which was obviously a lie.
Yeah.
Like, she says so many things that are just like outright lies that it's just like, yeah, she probably, the whole cast probably hates her. I don't know what her deal is, but she seems like a psychopath.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Wow.
But this is all speculation.
I mean,
The
that
story could be
also kind of
totally-
like it makes me sad because it means casting Harry Styles was really much just a means for them to gain publicity and marketing.
probably.
And there was so much hype coming out of this movie.
It looked interesting.
like 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, just from the trailer alone.
And now it's just
like,
being. I mean,
interesting.
someone supposed to have managed this PR nightmare, but
dude, it's
That's
really
crazy.
not good. She also said that the character that Chris Pine is, who's like the main villain, she said she based off Jordan Peterson, which is fine.
what?
But like Jordan Peterson has a huge following, so like cool, just isolate like a ton of young men around the country. Just I
Wait, what?
She basically said the villain was Jordan Peterson, which is fine if that's what you want. But if you're trying to get the most people into theaters, you can't demonize a pretty popular dude, whether
Yeah.
you like that he's popular or not.
And he's not
popular.
He's not actually. Okay, there's a difference between Andrew Tate kind of
Yes.
person versus an academic on.
Oh, I won't get into the argument. Yeah, I won't get into the argument. There are a lot of people in Hollywood that like hate Jordan Peterson,
yeah,
but
I
have
know that.
never
I know
listened to
that.
him in his life, in
Yeah.
their lives. He's not that. He's
Dude.
not the villain that Hollywood
All right.
portrays him to be. But regardless, from a business perspective,
Yeah.
they just she's just
They're,
isolating
they're
her audience.
single-handedly tanking the performance.
Yeah.
almost, yeah.
And so this is where we can get into the business aspect of this,
Yeah.
where it's like,
I mean, they. Put
I don't know
so
what this
much,
does for the movie,
Okay,
right?
so-
like, what does this do? Does this drama make people be like, I have to go see this movie because of the drama? Which I almost hope doesn't happen, so that Hollywood doesn't learn from this, like learn the wrong lesson. Is like,
Yeah.
if we want to create popular movies, we need to just create massive drama with the the production.
You know, I
But-
could see something happening where people are so interested in this that they'll go and watch it just to see if like there's shit that they can spot.
Yeah.
So I could see that happening, but I mean, I guess the bright side is that it's only a $20 million movie. So
Yeah.
for them to break even, they only need to hit like 50 million.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, just looking at how much marketing is around right now for this movie, like
Free
they
marketing.
probably-
Free marketing.
yeah, there's also free marketing.
Right. I mean, obviously there's regular marketing, but I mean, look at, it blew up Twitter like
Yeah.
all day on Sunday.
Yeah.
That's
But
free
the-
marketing.
okay, so the weird thing is it's not positive publicity, like No Way Home.
So then you got to
is,
go
right?
well then
So
you have to go.
this might be a double-edged sword, right?
It could, but also like maybe all press is good. Like, people,
Maybe.
to your point, people might go out to see this movie because they're like, there's just so much crap with this movie. I
Yeah.
have to go see
Well, here's
what
the thing.
fuss is about.
I just looked it up. 39% Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I forgot about that. Yeah, how many
So-
reviews? I knew it was coming in bad, but I didn't know, like,
It's
how many reviews are there?
no audience reviews, obviously, but 38 critics reviews at 42%. That's not good. That's not good.
That's pretty bad.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty bad. Anyways, that was probably 10 more minutes than we probably should have spent on this.
I know. Well, yeah, I don't think I'm probably going to. I don't know if I'll see it. I won't go. No,
I
I'm
will.
not.
Okay,
I don't know if
I'm
gonna
going
go
to see it
theaters
because
see
in
it.
school we had to do a marketing project for this movie.
Oh,
so
really?
I'm kind of vested in it. Plus, I love
Okay.
Florence Pugh. So like,
She
gonna
is
watch,
great.
I'm gonna watch anything that she's in.
No, she is a very, very good actress. So I
Yeah.
get that.
That being said, if it comes out on Peacock, I'll probably just watch it on Peacock.
Well, that's kind of what I'm thinking. It's just like I feel like this movie's going to be on a streaming platform in like
Yeah.
90
Sooner
to
rather than
120
later.
days.
Yeah.
It's like, why waste money?
Well,
to go see
here's what I
this?
think. Like, if it performs badly in the box office, it'll get there in like 2 weeks.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably be quicker. Do you know who Warner Brothers?
Oh, it's
so,
Warner Brothers.
Oh, so it might be on HBO Max within like
Yeah.
90 days.
I can see that happening.
Which, yeah, I mean then I might wait, to
Yeah.
be honest. But
Yeah, speaking of the HBO Max, I
Funny.
mean, the main story I want to talk about is
Yeah, this is the big one.
Fantasy Wars.
that's right. The fantasy
Yeah.
wars have started.
They've started, and I think, I mean, it's smart that they staggered it, but it is kind of,
Yeah.
it is kind of bad that they're overlapping because they are potentially
Cannibalizing each other.
Cannibalizing each other.
Yeah, I agree.
But I mean, it's basically a big dick swinging contest right now.
Oh,
you know?
yeah. Oh,
The-
yeah.
The Zaz and Mr. Bezos
Yeah.
going after it. They're both expensive, like excessively expensive.
Yeah.
But I think it's expected now, given how good Game of Thrones was. But this show for Lord of the Rings. I think I heard it was like north of more than $1 billion.
Yeah,
And they
if you
spent-
include the cost it took to even buy the rights to Lord of the Rings, so they had to
Right.
buy the rights, which is already like I think
it was like $250 million or something like that.
it was something stupid like that, and then you had the production
Yeah.
already, which is just like
Yeah, and then we can go directly into the
God.
content first, maybe before we talk about some of the business stuff. But
Sure.
like, just because I've been holding this in for a while, and I really want to say it.
Yeah, get it out.
Like all the critics are like raving about Rings of Power right now, right? They think it's really good.
the critics. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say the audience is not.
See,
yeah.
I am part of the audience because I'm not enthused about it. Like, in fact, I was bored by the first episode.
I was too.
I didn't even finish it because
You
I
didn't
was
even
just
finish
like,
it. Yeah.
because I was like, what is the point of all of this? And
Yeah.
and I was trying to think through like the reasons why I didn't like it and draw contrasts with House of the Dragon, which I'm going to call Hot D because that's what George R. R.
I
Martin
like
calls
that.
it.
He calls it that?
He calls
That's-
it Hot D.
I am absolutely calling it that from now
Yeah,
on.
for sure.
That's
I love the
great.
Hot D.
Hot D.
Anyways,
That's
so
good.
I'm
That's
trying to draw comparisons to figure out why I like it more. And I think the fact that they spent $1 billion on it means that they went all in on everything. So part
Lord of
of
the
it
Rings,
feels like they're trying too hard. They're trying too
Yeah.
hard on a whole bunch of things. And like every scene has like this ethereal music and they're trying to make it all like majestic and epic. And it's like you don't need that for every scene.
No.
And not only that, but like all like the effects, like even the creatures that they have, it just seems a little excessive. Like you don't need it. It doesn't lend to the story. It just lends to the visual.
Yep.
So when people are saying it's a visual masterpiece, yeah, I agree.
Right.
But if it's not complementing the story, I don't
Right.
see what the point
You
is.
can't buy good storytelling. I mean, you can buy talent that
Yes.
maybe could make a good
But you
story,
can't
but they
just-
clearly didn't find them.
Yeah,
yet.
you can't
I
just
mean, as
add
far
a
as I know.
sheen to bad storytelling and think that it's going to be good.
Exactly. Yes.
And I think that's what
Yes.
bothers me a little bit because even the characters, like they're kind of creating archetypes into this show, but you don't really know how they got there. You don't really know how they like. You're supposed to relate or resonate with these characters.
Yeah.
You know, they just kind of say like she's a powerful warrior who's trying to
They go
avenge her
quick,
brother. Yeah.
right? And they're like, I don't know what's going on with the brother. I mean, to be fair, sometimes like they don't tell you those things because they're going to reveal it later.
I hope they do. I hope they do.
I've been burned by I've been burned by Hollywood enough where they do stuff like that and they just never answer the question. You're like,
Yeah.
what are you guys doing?
But see, that's what I'm
It's
afraid
like
of.
it's
here.
like yeah, I know, me too. It's
Yeah.
like there's something called like there's like purposeful exclusion at the beginning because eventually it's gonna like that's why a lot of stories start off with like people being like it's like an orphan because you eventually find out that their parents are actually something special or something like that.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
that's like very common one.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that where like that's fine. But like yeah, I am like Hollywood's burned me enough where they don't answer questions and I'm like, well, I'm sure they'll answer it later and they don't.
Yeah.
So I'm with you on that.
So yeah, and then you contrast that with House of the Dragon, which you follow like Rhaenyra and all these characters like early in the conflict when they're at like their base level personalities, and then they're changing as the course of the events occur.
yeah.
And so you understand their path to getting there. And so I do think the writing is better than the last part of like Game
I
of
do
Thrones.
think the writing, yeah.
Yeah, so it is pretty good, and I think like they've built some of the main characters very well, like
Yeah.
especially like Daemon.
Yeah, Damien's
Oh my God,
the
dude,
shit.
that-
He's
yeah.
a great character.
Yeah, my wife is in love with that guy. So-
Really?
But yeah,
He's
I mean,
the
like,
bad boy. Yeah.
yeah, it's like it's so well done. I mean, even after the first episode, I was already bought in. right?
Same. After the first episode, I was like, they've set up a lot of good shit right
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
Like,
and
I
then
was
this-
like, I could see a lot of this fucking with stuff.
Oh yeah,
So,
and
yeah.
then the second episode is a little bit more political, but it's setting up the politics, which is good. And then the third was like a banger, right?
Yeah.
I thought the third was
Yeah.
a banger.
Well, I'll tell you my problem with the third one. I mean, I'm just going to assume that people know.
Yeah. okay.
Yeah. It was spoilers if
Spoiler
you haven't
alert.
seen.
Yeah.
My problem was that, and I think we talked about this, was just like the stakes didn't feel built up enough yet. Like when he killed that prince or whatever,
The crab
and
feeder.
the crab feeder, like I'd only known him for like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So like when they kill him, like is it like it feels like it's supposed to be like a moment, but like it's not. I'm just like, okay. Like I guess this guy was bothering you for 3 years, most of which I never lived through. So this wasn't built up enough for me to care.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it was a cool moment, I guess, but it also also felt completely unrealistic. Which, to be fair, like the Battle of the Bastards was pretty unrealistic. Like it did start to get there with Game of Thrones, which is fine. But yeah, him charging the entire the guy's entire fleet, and he's like, "Yep, I killed him." It's like, so you planned that? You assumed
you assumed
that
you were gonna win.
One single person without he has dragons could have taken his dragon, but decided to opt out of his dragon. Decided to charge like 200 men, and then he succeeds. He's like, "Yeah, I'm awesome." It's like, dude, you would have died if your friends didn't come.
That's
to help you.
That was my only reservation of the show so far, but I have faith.
Yeah,
that it's I
hope so.
Purposeful exclusion. Because I do think what happens in the cave is somewhat significant. I just get that feeling. So I feel like they did it on purpose.
I hope so.
Because it's a big misstep to just like have his death off screen when the crab feeder is actually known as like a villain.
Right.
And like I started reading Fire and Blood just because I want to kind of know what's going on. And just by the way, Fire and Blood is like this long. What's happening in this series is probably like this much. Which is nuts. They have so much IP that they can work with.
Yeah.
But they do like the crab feeder role is actually a little bit more important than I think what the show has shown so far.
Yeah, so maybe that's it,
so
right?
I think there's more to it.
We also don't know, like, I mean, I assume in the letter that his brother wrote him, like, that he is sending him equipment. It's like, what bothered me was like, so Damien gets a letter saying, "I'm going to help you. You've been asking for this help." Well, I guess he didn't ask, but somebody else did.
Yeah.
So he's like, fuck that. I'm going to go commit suicide. Like, at least with the Jon Snow thing in Battle of the Bastards where he, like, just charged, and you're like, God damn it, man. And he somehow survived. You're like, all right. At least there was a good storytelling reason why he did that. Because, A, he's shown that he's willing to put his emotions over his logic, which Jon Snow constantly did in Game of Thrones. And yeah, it was his brother. Like, he thought he might be able to save his brother, so that's why he charged alone. So that kind of made sense.
Yeah.
The fact that he survived was a little bit like, okay.
Yeah, he did get arrowed.
But him charging forward alone made sense in terms of who I know as that character. Damien seems pretty smart. Like, I don't understand why he'd just get mad and be like, I'm going to attack this entire fucking army by myself with my dragon. It's like, okay, we've already got a major plot hole here. Unless maybe they explain it later, but I'm just like, that seems like bad storytelling right now.
So I'm going to chalk it up to as the 3 years passed, because there's a time lapse from the second episode to the third.
Right.
As the 3 years lapsed, he has been trying to prove himself as the ruler of like the Seven Kingdoms instead of Viserys.
But see, that's lazy storytelling to exclude that. Like, we have to assume that. It's like, you should be able to build up to it to the point when that does happen, we understand what's going on.
It's a psychotic move, right? Like, for him to have done that.
I mean,
but it's, what I would assume is that he's seeing it as no other choice. Like, either he demonstrates his strength as a
and maybe
warrior,
they explain that. Yeah, maybe they explain that.
Or he's just going to be second place, and he's not going to be even strong enough to take care of this like stupid irritants that they have.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I hope so.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I'm like kind of hoping that that's what they meant. But so far, there's like a few things that I'm bothered.
I'm hoping that they do that. I will say, in the original Game of Thrones, I don't think I had many of those moments. You know, where I was like,
I didn't have many of those moments in the first 4 seasons, and then they started to pile up.
True. Yeah. That's fair.
They started to pile up later on.
Yeah. I always go to the when Game of Thrones was good, which I'd argue would probably push into maybe the 6th season.
Yeah.
The 5th season was pretty good. That was when Cersei blew up the Sept, which was it was getting bad with the whole church thing. I was like, what the fuck's going on? But that episode when she blew up the Sept was like, all right, Game of Thrones, all right,
got back.
You made up for it. Yeah. And then it started kind of going downhill
for me, it was the moment that Hodor got killed. That's when it was like, that's like the peak.
That might have been.
On, that was it. Got
Season
worse.
7 was when it started getting bad, when Jon Snow started to teleport across Westeros. I'm like, ooh. The beauty of Game of Thrones was that it took characters a long time to get across, which means they built their relationships on the way.
Yeah.
Like, I think season 2 or 3 was like the Jaime Lannister, like with Brienne of Tarth.
Yeah.
Like, and their whole journey was like a whole season.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, now I understand their relationship because we got through it together.
Yeah.
And then when he started teleporting, it's like, oh, they're just trying to get through this shit.
And when Tyrion started just spouting bullshit,
dude. Yeah. Then when Tyrion like just became an idiot, like, for no reason.
He's literally an imp.
Yeah. He was like one of the smartest people in Westeros, and then he just was an idiot.
Yeah.
Like magically overnight, he just started to make stupid decisions that he would never have made in the first. Anyway, we could go on about that.
Let's talk about how. Oh yeah, go ahead.
One comment I'll make about the Game of Thrones and when you were talking about Lord of the Rings with like the money and the budget. One of the cool things about the first Game of Thrones was actually that they didn't have as much budget as they wanted, which means the dragons didn't appear for a long time. Or they did. Like, the cool part about season 1 was that it was all mythology, and then you saw, like, a baby dragon. You're like, oh, fuck. Yeah. And then the whole, like, couple seasons, you're watching the dragons grow, and you're like, is this eventually going to get to the point where these dragons just fuck people up? And then when the dragons finally do, it's, like, glorious.
The payoff, right?
It's the payoff.
Yeah.
So now there's a bunch of dragons everywhere. It's not as cool as when Dany first got them.
Right.
And it's almost like it's saturation. Like, I see them so much, and they're used so much. I'm like, kind of already been here. It's like not as cool. And that's the same thing with Lord of the Rings. When you have all of these like special effects and production and stuff, it's not special because you're like, well, this is what the money that they fucking spent on the show should be. Yeah. So it's not actually cool. You know, like it's just, and it's also.
I mean, I feel like because the audience has been primed now to know that there's dragons. If you pulled back on the dragons, then people would be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Where's all the CGI shit?
I think you mentioned this. There's like creativity is really good within a constraint. Within constraints.
What is it?
You made a comment like that.
With non-constraints is the death of creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I think that's kind of the fallacy that's coming on with Game of Thrones, where Jeff was just like, here's a pile of money, do what you will, and it's just like.
Yeah, they're gonna stretch it to how much money they were given. So
right, they're gonna use. But I think when you're given, like when you actually have to budget, you do things in a creative way that sometimes ends up it actually being better. Yeah, like I bet you if you watch the effects of the original Lord of the Rings, like the Peter Jackson movies, and then watch the one here, you'd actually probably think the Peter Jackson ones are better. Even though it's cheaper, it's more
weird.
cheaply made.
Like I agree with that because there's like this weird sheen that the new series has that makes it look like a video game versus like actual.
It's too much CGI.
Yeah,
I think it's a lot of CGI versus when they made the movies. Like there were actually, I think they just hired a bunch of extras and they actually made all of them orcs. Yeah, like literally and physically, and your eyes can see that. I think. Yeah. Like it can identify when something is actually on screen and that actually exists in real life. Yeah. Versus it's just like a computer program. You're like, this is not real. Yeah. You know?
But, I mean, from a performance perspective, so House of the Dragon did well on a premiere level. Like, it premiered at a record for any sort of premiere, which is great. Yeah. And then it continued to build up. And then Lord of the Rings is also broke that record. It's like 25 million.
Yeah, Amazon went on and said it was 25 million that watched.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think we always have to take that with a grain of salt because they could fudge any data to say
could be
whatever.
The first 2 minutes.
Yeah, and they're not known to necessarily release consumer data anyways. Yeah. So it's always kind of like, do I trust these numbers or what?
I know.
But the other thing is, they're completely global, and they put so much marketing to this. Like, if it was anything less than 20 million, you'd be like,
I think half of the billboards in LA are the Lord of the Rings show. Like, I was driving around like this weekend, and I'm like, it's everywhere.
Yeah, 3 weeks ago it was all House of the Dragon, and now it's like all Rings of Power.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to expect it to do well. So I'm sure they're all kind of breathing a sigh of relief that people watched it.
Well, the thing is I think the thing is, though, is that I don't think people watching it at the beginning is a sign of success. Because a lot of people were going to watch it because of all the marketing, all the money that was spent, this Amazon huge thing. It's Lord of the Rings. Like, I think getting people to watch it wasn't going to be hard. It's getting people to keep going and finish it.
Really good point.
And if people stop, that means... I think everybody was going to watch it regardless of what you did. If you sink that much money into it, it's Lord of the Rings. Everyone's going to watch it regardless of how good the show is. Yeah.
See, that's the weird thing.
Are people going to get through it? And I'm questioning it myself.
Yeah, going into this month, I was an equal part Lord of the Rings fan and an equal part Game of Thrones fan. Yeah. But now I'm only a Game of Thrones fan.
I will say, my thought when I watched Lord of the Rings was like, this should be a movie. Like, for some reason, Lord of the Rings feels like it should be in the format of a movie. And maybe that's because of
we've been primed.
The past. Yeah. We've been primed for it. But it just felt, not much happens, you know, in the first Lord of the Rings one. Like, this dude randomly came from It's just like weird stuff. Like
it's also Sauron is like the same villain.
yeah.
So you're kind of just like, this feels the same.
Yeah, it just feels odd. There's no distinct like I don't know. I guess Galadriel is the hero. Like I'm trying to identify who's the protagonist. I guess it's her.
The only thing I thought was cool was like Elrond was young in this one, and I was like, oh dude, that's
was that him?
freaking Agent Smith, yeah. It's supposed to be
It's supposed to be him when he's younger?
yeah, Hugo Weaving.
I guess because they are this.
Yeah, because they're thousands of years old, right? So
Yeah. Fair enough.
and I was like, oh,
Interesting.
I buy it. Like it kind of looks like him.
I do kind of buy that. I also like.
Yeah.
I also did they ever like? Maybe they'll figure it out. But like, Galadriel wasn't like a warrior at all.
No, he's like a politician dude, right?
Then isn't Galadriel the woman? The blonde.
The
elf?
woman.
Yeah.
The main character.
Yeah, the main character.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't get far enough.
Well, in the movies. In the movies, she's not. And
she exists in the movies too?
yeah, dude. Yeah, she's like a pretty significant character in the movies.
Oh, really?
Yes. And she is not a warrior at all. Like, she doesn't fight at all.
Oh,
And
this is Kate Blanchett's character.
Yes. Yeah, it's the same character.
Ooh, okay.
So what's a confusing plot hole now that you've got is that, and maybe I have to watch the movies again because I think there might have been something with the elves refusing to fight. So that might be part of it. But like,
Wait, but
if she's this badass warrior hero, then why the fuck was the world ending in the movies and she did nothing?
yeah.
Like,
That's true.
Then
And she's not that old in the Lord of the Rings.
No, and the elves, they live a long time. And
the other thing is, like,
regardless.
If you know that Galadriel is in the later parts of there's no stakes.
Well, that is a problem. That is a problem. At least with Game of Thrones, you know that there's stakes because none of these characters exist. Like,
yeah, so you
don't
know they will die.
If they're
going
to die, or
yeah.
you can look it up to see what ends up happening. But that's the same thing as Game of Thrones. You
Yeah,
looked it up
that's
the books.
annoying. Like
So,
now that I know that she's definitely going to survive all of this, like
Right. So every battle that she does, you're gonna be like, well, she's gonna live.
yeah.
So it does kind of mess with it.
Yeah.
Knowing the ending, or at least knowing parts of what the ending is going, and Sauron's never going to be killed fully.
Yeah.
It's just like, she might kill him, and
Yeah, so the
everyone's
question-
like, well, cool, but
question
he's
is
still going to come
begged.
back alive anyway.
Yeah. Basically, what we're asking
There's
is
no
like,
stakes.
What's the point?
Yes.
Right? What's the point?
Yes.
Other than to just expand the franchise, what's the point?
Yeah. I think that's what's going to. Unfortunately, I think that's going to be. If I had to predict, I will say that Hot D will do okay. I don't think it's ever going to do as well as Game of Thrones, to be honest. Like, I think Game of Thrones was just new.
Yeah.
And I told you this. Like,
Well,
I just feel like I'm in Game of Thrones. I'm
it's a
very
spin-off.
glad that I'm back, but I've been here. So it's not as cool of a concept.
Yeah.
But I still like it. I'll probably still follow it until it like really starts, like if it really goes downhill, like the end of Game of Thrones, which I never want to relive again. If I start feeling that way again, I'm done. I'm like,
really,
no.
I'm really
no.
hopeful it's not going to because
It's
George
different
R. R.
writers.
Martin, yeah, he's involved too.
One of the show writers did leave though,
Oh yeah, I saw that.
which
I did see
is
that.
not a good sign.
Yeah.
But I mean, they could still figure it out. But
Yeah.
like, the showrunner leaves after one season.
Yeah, one of the
I
two.
don't know what the
co-wrote it.
fuck's going with that. Yeah. So that's a little sus.
Although he did
But-
say that it was like for his own reasons, like
Like
that he
personal
wanted,
reasons,
yeah,
maybe?
that he wanted to depart at this time. So I could,
I guess.
yeah.
We'll see. But I will say it will probably do. I have a feeling that Rings of Power is going to. I think it's going to be bad.
It's gonna burn at. The
I think
end,
it's going
right?
to burn, and Amazon's going to realize that they spent $1 billion on a shitty TV show.
Yeah.
That cost a lot of money, but they're going to realize the hard way, as Netflix has learned,
Yeah.
that you
Can't just throw money.
can't. Good storytelling is you can't buy good storytelling. You can't. You can hope that like there are showrunners that can whip out that magic constantly, but even that doesn't work. The J.J. Abrams deal, where did that go? Pff, nowhere. Ryan Murphy, where did that deal go? Pff, nowhere. Like all these huge. Shonda
Dude,
Rhimes
these
is
guys-
the only one that has actually kind of pulled it off with
Yeah.
Bridgerton. But otherwise, Shonda Rhimes kind of did it, even
No,
though
she
she was
has-
still paid like $300 million.
She has a very good track record, though.
She does.
I will say, yeah.
She does. So
I think
she's
she
the only
stands
one
above.
who's actually kind of a success.
Yeah.
But the other ones, like I think they paid Ryan Murphy like $500 million.
Yeah.
That dude has not brought in that value even close.
Yeah.
So like, I think all the tech world is realizing that storytelling is actually a lot harder than they thought. They thought they could just throw money and
studios
data
have been
on
doing it for 100 years.
Yeah.
You know, like it's
Dude,
not,
they're the OG storytellers.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about money. It was not. And good storytelling cannot be bought.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to realize it the hard way, particularly with Rings of Power. Because also one of the huge things is uniqueness, like the ability to create something that's like very unique and different. There's so much value in that. And you do Rings of Power, everyone's just going to see it and be like, I've been here. I've been here. I've seen it.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to go through this again.
So, I mean, I'm kind of in the same view. Like so far, based on what I've seen, I think Hadi is going to do well. Like it's going to be good for HBO Max. Just generally. But I still I'm not convinced, given the investment, that it's going to be a high ROI for Amazon.
Rings of Power. Yeah, no. I don't. To be fair, like how popular would it have to be actually a positive ROI?
Yeah,
for Amazon,
I mean,
to be honest,
for $1 billion, like
what, like
it's got to stop
almost
traffic.
Yeah, like 95% of movies released in theaters don't make that money.
Yeah,
like I don't think you could ever. I don't think there could be anything that would make up the value of $1 billion. I think it was literally just Jeff has fuck you money, and he was just like, I want to get into Hollywood, and that was it. And he's like, if that's a complete waste, whatever.
True, right? Because if you're measuring ROI, you're talking about getting people to purchase stuff.
Like no one's signing up for Amazon Prime for this show because they probably already have it, or they can steal a password from somebody. I don't think there's anybody that's paying for this show.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like it's trying to build their brand, so it's kind of like it's almost like a loss leader. Right?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there is some. Maybe I'm sure there's more signups. I'm sure maybe there's a reduction in churn. Maybe.
Yeah.
But no way it comes
you
close
think
to the
someone's
value
going to prevent
of $1 billion.
churning their Amazon Prime just to watch the show? No, I very much doubt that.
No, I really don't. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Prime is one of the most sticky assets. Like, it is basically a utility for me. Like,
it's like cable.
Yeah, like I remember when they increased their prices, like by like $10 or $5 a month. I was just like, it made me think like they could jump this up like $30 a month, and I'd probably still like
pay it,
like they could do whatever they want. I'd probably still pay this.
I mean, they raised it specifically because content spend went up. I mean that
which is
they
funny
raised
because that's not the value,
so that they could do this.
Right.
You know,
and that's. I mean, there is. I'd be curious to see their numbers on like who is getting like the Amazon Prime only. One. I can't imagine there's that many, but
that's there's some regions that only have it just because logistically they don't have
e-commerce.
Yeah, they don't have e-commerance.
Good point. Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, we'll wait and see. I'm excited for the next couple episodes. For House of the Dragon.
Of course, you're reading the books. You would read the books. That's so funny.
Dude, the books are
you love
780 80 pages.
Yeah.
And I'm not even in like the first 40 years of the history, and it's like 1,000 years or some shit.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's
also written as nonfiction, so it's like a history book, and so like I'm just reading this like holy shit.
That's cool.
All this came out of George R.R. Martin's head. Like he invented.
He just made up an
entire
history
history
and just wrote it
in
down.
his head. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a freaking. It bothers me because he spent so
mind-blowing.
much time writing that shit when he couldn't finish the main story.
Yeah. I think
You
it's
son of
because
a
he's
bitch.
thinking about it so much that he's like, there's just more for me to like write down. More
I
for me to
know.
keep in mind.
I also think the way he like
it's wild.
I think the way he formulated the story, like the main story, like Game of Thrones. I think the problem was he never fully fleshed out how to get there. And so I think he let he knew kind of where he wanted to end with like Dany turning, Jon Snow becoming whatever. And then he was just like, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And then like the world kept going like this and this and this. He's like, fuck, I got to converge this sometime. And then it was so intimidating at that point. He's just like, I'm going to work on Elden Ring. Like,
it's
just do random shit. And you're like, God damn it, man. Like, finish the story you wrote. Like, come on.
He had the strategy, and then they didn't figure out the tactics and the execution just yet.
Yeah. Which is why, by the way, like we should all respect J.K. Rowling as one of the greatest storytellers to ever exist on planet Earth. The fact that she was able to write
finished them in like 10 years, right?
Yeah, not only did she finish in like 10, 12 years, she was doing it simultaneously while also being an executive producer on the movies. So she was writing the books while also making sure the movies were true to her books.
Yeah.
At the same time. And she did it in a timely manner, and it was perfectly executed all the way through. Like even the movies, perfectly executed. And
Yep.
you're like, I mean, some movies were probably could have been better, but overall,
they're all
incredible.
They're all fine.
They're all good.
Yeah.
The only complaint I have is my favorite book is the third book, which is an amazing book, but the movie was like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So there's some discrepancy, but otherwise, like as a she's a storytelling genius. Like the fact that she was able to do that, you gotta respect that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we'll ever.
She
have
thought
anything
through
like
all
that.
the nuances in her world.
Yeah, have
pretty-
you seen
pretty
her notes?
efficiently.
Have you ever like seen her notes and how she's like outlines the story? It's wild.
Huh.
She's
I bet
like a
you
whole
could buy
like,
those for a lot of money.
oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah. She like has every character and she's like, this is what the character's doing throughout this entire book and like what they're thinking. It's wild. Like
Wow.
how deep she really gets into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I think George R. R. Martin is more involved in Hot D. So I have hope that because he's involved, it will be better. And the fact that I guess the books are kind of the history is already written, right?
Yeah,
so
it's already done.
That's already
So,
helpful. That's
yeah.
really helpful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
We'll see.
So I'm excited.
yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's a good place to wrap up.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
We'll see you next week for the next episodes.
That's right. We'll
probably.
see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.